is going on? Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode. We're doing Off the Schneid as we do every Wednesday night. The win streak is over. A little depressing. We're going to be starting week 5 this week. First bye week of the season. So that throws some wrinkles into everybody's fantasy team. So if you have any start-sit questions, fire them into the chat as we go. I'll answer as we kind of get through the episode here. So like I said, last week, a little bit tougher than week 3, obviously. I kind of feel like I got, kind of fucked over on a few things, which hurts. Jalen hurts, but it is what it is. We'll talk through it as we go. And realistically, I should have won my main bet, the first bet that I make of the week. I should have probably won that. But the line changed a little late on me and I got in too early and that ended up screwing me. So it happens. It is what it is. But like I said, last week, 11 out of 19, not bad, I guess. Obviously, what is that, like 60%, something like that. But yeah, I think I got played by the NFL on a couple of those plays. And like I said, we'll get into that a little bit. There's an injury to T. Higgins, but I didn't actually pick that one. I kind of went back on that because the line moved up. I was hoping for it to move down, so I didn't actually pick T. Higgins at all. But Jordan Addison, that was a weird one considering where the line's at this week. And I'll talk about it when we get there. It just seems like, maybe the league knew something or odds makers knew something. Maybe there's an injury there that not everybody knew about because the line didn't make sense last week. And then with where the line's at now this week, it just really doesn't add up. It doesn't particularly make sense. It was a good matchup last week as well. You could say it's arguably a worse matchup this week, but his lines moved up. So that doesn't make a ton of sense at all. And then same thing with Roschon Johnson. Maybe we'll talk through that as well when we're talking. Yeah, we might as well talk about that when we're talking about the Thursday game tomorrow. That one didn't make sense either. Obviously, it just looks like Khalil Herbert was kind of being punished, and they were trying to send a message to Khalil Herbert a little bit, the coaching staff, that is. But realistically, this coaching staff, this entire team franchise doesn't have their head on straight right now. So it's really hard to trust anybody on this roster and on this team, coaching staff, players. Not a lot of it makes sense, but it is what it is. We'll try to make sense of it for this week and for tomorrow night's game. So let's just jump right into this. It's going to take a little while to get through everything. So let's talk through the slate of pick'em kind of numbers for this week, week 5. So, this is new. The 1-1 does it again. Total yards. That's new since a few hours ago when I was putting everything together. But let's dig into this. As always, again, I'll post my bet slips on Twitter. So follow me on Twitter. The Twitter handle's right here, _the Schneid. Show me your stuff, whatever. Let's work our way through it. If you want to tail my slips directly, go ahead. If you want to use some of the stuff that I put out here and some of the stuff that I do and add it to some of the picks you have, fantastic. Hopefully we all win together. But after the winning streak's over, we got to start a new one. Cheers to that. Let's get into it. Let's start a winning streak this week. I'll obviously hit this, the free square. It's always nice to have a free square. So I'll put a bet together with that. I haven't yet. That just came on within the last 2 hours. So but let's dig into Thursday night's game. So off the top, Justin Fields, rushing, receiving, obviously just rushing, one touchdown, one rushing touchdown. I'm not trusting it yet. It seems like they're really pushing him to stand in the pocket and throw the ball. So what I do like here, I'm taking the over 193.5. I talked about it on last week's show. Josh Kimmel, my guy, was on wondering what I thought about DJ Moore, and it went hand in hand with Justin Fields. I said it last week. I got to see it before I'm willing to put my money on Justin Fields' right arm. And we did last week. We saw it. So this Commanders defense is attackable. They're gettable in the secondary. So this is the direction that I feel like you got to go. Less than 200 yards, that's really not a lot. I get it that he's a running quarterback, but with that front seven and especially the defensive line, he's not going to be running a crazy amount. They should be able to contain him, at least contain him in the pocket and make him beat you with his right arm. And that's what I'm hoping happens. Not that he's going to beat them with his right arm, but, he's going to throw for 200 plus yards. That's what I'm banking on. Again, they should be able to keep him in the pocket. He's going to have to hang in there and make some throws. So I'm going with the over 193.5 passing yards for Justin Fields. Then obviously there's a lot more added in here. There's a lot of everything comes through on game day or the day before, especially for the Thursday night game, trying to get some action. But that's all I'm hitting is the passing yards. Maybe you could look at the completions, but that's on you. I'll take the passing yards. The rushing, I'm not really looking at the running backs here, especially with, I touched on it when we opened the show there. It was a real piss off that Roschon Johnson just didn't get the ball. There wasn't a line when I filmed last week when I filmed the episode. There wasn't a line, but I did heavily say to watch for it and bet on it if it happens. And I did bet on it, didn't get there. It was, I think 29.5 rushing yards. And I'm just a big believer in, actions speak louder than words, with everything, with life in general. But when coaching staffs are telling you something, that means not a ton. When they show you something, when they do something in games, and the week before last week, Roschon Johnson was technically the starter. It was a fantastic matchup against the Denver Broncos at home. I assumed that he would be getting the ball a little bit more, at least his, 6 to 8 touches. And then I felt pretty comfortable with him getting over that 30-yard mark. Didn't happen. Didn't get that many touches. Didn't get over the the yardage that we needed. It was a bit of a kick in the nuts. But that's not really the one that realistically really hurt me last week. It was Michael Thomas. His line moved down after I bet it. If I had just waited, made the same bet, I would have won. So that's a massive kick in the nuts, especially with how that game ended. It is what it is. That's last week. Let's move forward. So nothing with Khalil Herbert, nothing with Roschon Johnson. I'm not touching this 20.5. Obviously, I can't trust him. I can't trust this coaching staff. I can't trust the running back situation. So I'm just going to stay away from it and look at the passing game. So that brings in DJ Moore. And for me, this line moved up a yard since yesterday, but I'm still going to take it. If I like Justin Fields to get over 200 passing yards, at least over, 194, then I got to take his number one receiver, and that's DJ Moore. It's, again, a great matchup against the Washington defense and against the Washington secondary that struggles against the pass. So give me, over 51 receiving yards for DJ Moore. I'll take that. Again, there's more, 4 first downs. Okay, cool. But I'm not touching any of that stuff. I'm just going to go with the receiving yards. Not touching Darnell Mooney, just a little too volatile. And Justin Fields can certainly spread the ball around. I just think that DJ Moore is the number one by far, head and shoulders, way better than any receiver on this team. So I'm definitely taking DJ Moore, but I can't really look at anyone else. Cole Kmet, his numbers moving up. I'm not so sure I can recommend that. I don't mind the play. You could certainly go with a Cole Kmet stack with Justin Fields sort of thing, but I'm not really going to recommend it outside the DJ Moore pick. I do like DJ Moore, so I'm going to stick with that. Don't mind the kicking points for Cairo Santos, but not going after that. Don't really look too much again for IDP or for defensive players. So we can scroll past that. I don't mind the numbers for Sam Howell here. But Russell Wilson, that's another one that burned me just barely last week, and really another kick in the nuts, 232. And he had, I think, 223, I believe was the number last week. So, if Russell Wilson doesn't get there against the same defense, this is a home game for Sam Howell, but I just can't trust it. He hasn't been consistent, not consistent enough. So I can't recommend Sam Howell in this game, and I want to see more rushing attempts if I'm going to go after the rushing yardage for for Howell. And again, we just haven't seen it. So I'm avoiding Sam Howell this week, but in a very good matchup, I'm not going at Antonio Gibson. I could be, completely talked into and completely fine with, the rushing yards or the receiving yards for Antonio Gibson. Those are some pretty low numbers, but that's not where I'm going. I'm not recommending that. Brian Robinson is where I'm looking here, and it's the rushing yards. It's gone up 2 full yards. I still don't mind it. I still like the 65.5. I just think that he can get after it against this defense. It's a short week. It's a home game for Washington. So, give it to your big bruiser back, run through this Swiss cheese defense and, grind us out a victory. That's kind of what I think, Ron Rivera is going to want to do on offense. Eric Bieniemy, might not have a choice in that. He's going to run the ball anyways. Brian Robinson gets his touches. That's where I'm going. I still like it. I a couple days ago, 2 days ago, I think when I first started looking at the lines when they first came out, Brian Robinson was at 63.5. Obviously, I like that better, but it is what it is, and I'm still okay with this number. I could see him getting up to at least 70 yards, right? That's all you need, 66 yards. So I'm okay with this number. But I don't want it to move up anymore. If it gets up to, 67.5, I might, I certainly would start thinking twice about it. And so if I can't go with Sam Howell, I say this all the time, and I've said it literally directly about Sam Howell. If I can't endorse Sam Howell, if I can't endorse the quarterback, it's really difficult for me to endorse a receiver on that same team, right? So I can't really endorse Terry McLaurin in this matchup. I can't endorse, Jahan Dotson. I can't go with Curtis Samuel, who I smashed last week with the over total yards, rushing, receiving. He hit that. If this was total yards like it was last week, I think it was 34.5 last week. So if this was total yards, I could certainly be talked into that, but it's just receiving yards now. That might be the last time we get a good line from Curtis Samuel, unless he throws up a dud, which I kind of hope he does, because I want to hit him again. But we'll see where that goes. And if he gets a total yards line, which he might tomorrow, maybe I would hit it, depending on what it is. So I can't really talk too much about that, if I'm being honest. It's unknown right now. Logan Thomas, don't mind it. Again, he's beaten this twice in the last 3 weeks, I believe. So I don't hate that. I'm not picking it, but I don't hate that. And I couldn't blame you if you go after Logan Thomas this week. So let's move on to the London game. Jacksonville, Buffalo. Should be an interesting game. Should be a good game. I'll probably be waking up early for this one. Should be entertaining. And there's a bunch that I like in this. So with a couple things going on here, with Jacksonville staying in England, staying in the UK, staying in London, the time difference isn't as big of a deal, isn't as big of a thing for them. Plus they do it a lot, they're kind of used to it. But and also with Tre'Davious White going down, torn Achilles, sucks for him. He's, that's a torn ACL and a torn Achilles, I believe, for Tre'Davious White now for the Buffalo Bills. So that's pretty shitty for him. That kind of sucks, but it is what it is. He's gone now. He won't be in the secondary. So therefore, I'm going to take Trevor Lawrence 2 passing touchdowns over 1.5. I just think he's going to be able to get after this defense. Plus, the Buffalo Bills offense, even if they are a little bit sluggish from a time change and everything like that, they're still an East Coast team. But even if they are a little sluggish from the time change, the Buffalo Bills are going to be okay. They're going to get theirs. They're going to make some plays. They're going to score points on this Jacksonville defense. So if the Jacksonville Jaguars are coming back, which they should be in this game, they're going to have to score points. They're going to have to throw the ball. So give me 2 touchdown passes for Trevor Lawrence. I don't know if he's done it yet. I don't think he's done it yet this season, but this is a prime game, a prime setup for that to happen. Passing yards just went up. That's interesting. So clearly people are betting that up. But give me the 2 passing touchdowns. That's what I'm looking at. I'm not really looking at the passing yards. I think that's too close for me. But give me 2 passing touchdowns for Trevor Lawrence. Nothing there for Travis Etienne. He could hit it, sure. Interestingly enough, I like 2 passing touchdowns for the Jags, but I just am not sure where it's going to come from or who it's going to go to. Jamal Agnew could have a passing or a receiving touchdown. Evan Ingram, Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley, maybe Zay Jones is back. I'm not sure if he traveled or not, like Devin Lloyd. Devin Lloyd didn't travel with the team, so he's obviously not playing. I don't know if Zay Jones did or not. I'm not entirely sure on that. I probably should look into it, but either way, there's lots of pass catchers available for Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne as well. So I'm not picking any one of these receivers to have a touchdown reception. The yardage I was looking at was Christian Kirk at 54.5. That's really, really close for me. We haven't really seen it from Calvin Ridley outside of week 1. That's 3 straight weeks that we just haven't seen it out of Calvin Ridley. And then Christian Kirk's been kind of skyrocketing, kind of blowing through his projections. So I could certainly be talked into this number for Christian Kirk. I don't have it on my list. I'm not, hanging my hat on it, but I could definitely be talked into that number because I really don't mind it. If either of these numbers were 1.75, I could maybe get into that. Obviously, if I'm going after the Trevor Lawrence 2 passing touchdowns, someone's going to catch. But, it might be one or the other, then Evan Ingram, maybe, like I said, Travis Etienne. So just give me Trevor Lawrence over 2 touchdown passes. And then we'll move on to the other side of this game where I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure why Josh Allen's not getting much respect from the odds makers or from the line makers. And this is kind of every year he gets rolling, right? Every single year, Josh Allen, whether he starts slow, starts fast, whatever, at some point there's a stretch of games throughout the NFL season where Josh Allen just starts rolling and he just starts putting games together. And, it looks unstoppable. He looks like he's one of the best. That's why he has the reputation he has, because he, at times, looks like the best quarterback by far in the NFL. Other times, he looks, susceptible to turnovers, makes bad decisions, everything like that. So right now, I think he's rolling. I'm gonna be smashing Josh Allen as if he keeps getting kind of disrespected, in my opinion. So give me the passing yards. 261, over 260 and a half. That went down a yard since yesterday, which is kind of crazy to me. I'll post a bet slip on Twitter after I'm done the show here because I've already placed a bet with Josh Allen in it. So give me that over 260. Now it's down 259 and a half. Just went down. Live breaking news. I don't understand. I really don't understand. This secondary, this defense in general for the Jags is pretty gettable. So, I don't get it. So I would hit that over 260 now. There you go. I would hit the over on that. Not looking at James Cook. Again, just a little too volatile, a little too up and down. Latavius Murray's getting some run. Damian Harris is still there. This number, again, went down for Stephon Diggs. It was, 84 and a half and about an hour ago. I'm not looking there just because that's a pretty big number. That's a pretty big number. And he hasn't beaten that once or twice this year. 2 of the last 3 weeks, he has beaten that, and he's been over 100 yards. But that's a large number. I just get a little skittish for large numbers and think that there's other routes, and where has that been? Again, for me, it's been there the past at least 2 weeks, I believe. I hit the over last week with Gabe Davis. I'm going back to the well on a similar number. It's actually less than last week. Last week was 43 and a half. This week's it's 40 and a half. So give me the over 40 and a half for Gabe Davis. This went up a yard since yesterday, but if I'm endorsing and I'm betting on Josh Allen having success, then I have to take a pass catcher that actually has more plays. He's on the field. Technically, he's on the field more than Stephon Diggs. He's running the routes. He's getting targets. It is a little sketchy with Buffalo, as there's a lot of mouths to feed. A lot of guys can catch touchdown passes, can get yards. Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, running backs, like I said, Stephon Diggs, Deontay Hardy, Khalil Shakir. There's a lot of mouths to feed here, so it can be a little sketchy at times, but as long as he keeps hitting it, I'm going to keep going back to the well. He's on the field. He's running routes. He's getting targeted. Give me Gabe Davis over 40.5 receiving yards in London against the Jags. Now, there's a couple moving parts in these next few picks. With Baltimore and Pittsburgh, I'm just having a hard time. I feel like this should be a smash, the 201.5 passing yards for Lamar Jackson, but I feel like this Baltimore team could just run all over the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think Gus Edwards could do well. Justice Hill, maybe. Lamar Jackson can run for 100 yards. Maybe you could look at the passing touchdowns, but for a spicy pick, if that's only 1.25, it's not that spicy for me. If it was 1.5, I might look at it a little harder. But again, if they're just running the ball up and down the field, I would much sooner look at this rushing touchdown at 1.25, much sooner be picking that than the passing touchdowns. But realistically, I'm just leaving Lamar. I'm going to have a fair amount of exposure in battle royales, and we'll see in a second here that I don't really need to push it. I don't mind this number. This was not here. This number was not here, an hour ago. So I like that. I like that a lot. 43.5. Let's take a look. Yeah. Against this defense, I'm going to go ahead and endorse that right here, right now. 43.5 for Gus Edwards. I'm going to write that down even. That's on the list. Keep me accountable. I like that number. That's a cheap number. I might make a bet on that as soon as this stream is over and loop it in with another Josh Allen, because I'll keep hitting that if it's going to go down on me. Over 43.5 rush yards, you betcha. So yeah, that's something to take a look at. I'm endorsing it. I was looking at the touchdown there. They had that earlier, but they didn't have a rushing line. I was going to touch on it to say keep an eye out. So here we are. I like that number. I'm going to hit that. Yeah, as we speak, I'm going to hit that. Keep an eye on Twitter. You'll see a slip after the stream's over. And if I can't take Lamar Jackson passing yards, I can't very well look at his pass catchers. I'm going to have exposure in battle royales. I'm not going to go with Gus Edwards in a battle royale format, but I definitely will take Mark Andrews. I have some Zay Flowers. The kicking points, I don't mind it, but that's a little, there's better spots for kickers than I love Justin Tucker, one of the best kickers of all time, realistically. But I think there's better spots. Tough matchup for Najee, tough matchup for Jaylen Warren. Who knows with the quarterback situation for, a guy like Pickens or the pass catchers. So I'm off the Pittsburgh Steelers side until we see some more out of this offense, or they fire Matt Canada, something like that. But yeah, Gus Edwards, that looks attractive. I'm not touching this game yet. I'll have a lot of exposure to Kamara, a fair amount of exposure to Kamara in battle royales. So I'm not sure I need to endorse this, but I don't mind this rushing yards total. I was looking at that. I don't have it written down. I'm not going to put it on my list, but I don't mind this. His first game back, he had, I think, 51 on 11 carries, I believe. So, or the rushing yards. You could look at either one of these individually. I'm not sure I would take the rushing and receiving yards and put, bet on that, but I would take a look at either of these individually if you like that game script or you like a bet there. I just don't want to, hang my hat on it on the road in New England. That's a tough game. Who knows what's going on with Derek Carr? He shouldn't have played last week, which affected my Mike Thomas, play and pick, which really broke my heart and ended up losing the week for me, which really, really was a kick in the nuts, but it is what it is. Let's move on. Chris Olave can endorse it again with Derek Carr, maybe playing, maybe not, maybe hurt, maybe he's okay. The AC joint, he should have just not played last week, and then he would likely be okay this week. Should have just been Jameis Winston. all game last week, but it is what it is. Let's move on. But that's a tough matchup in New England. JC Jackson's back in town. Not that scares me much, but realistically, it's Kamara. If you like the game script, I'm not hanging my hat on Kamara, but if you like this and you like the game script, go that route. I'm avoiding everything else on either side of this game. I'm not touching the New England side. They just look like straight up hot garbage right now. So I'm avoiding both sides of this game for now. Again, battle royales, I'll be taking some Kamara. And if you like it, go nuts, but I'm not gonna endorse it on here. This one is an interesting one. The Giants, Miami should be pretty one-sided. Should be a straight beatdown for the Dolphins. Daniel Jones, it's hard to say. Like, I can't really say Daniel Jones looks like shit. I can't just shit on Daniel Jones here because he has like 1.1 seconds to do anything after the ball's in his hands. He has no time whatsoever. That offensive line is straight garbage. They need Andrew Thomas back now. So I can't endorse anything on the Giants side because they could just get destroyed. Could be a straight beatdown, which also affects the Miami side. I'll have tons of exposure in Battle Royale, which we'll get to after we finish up the picks, but it's hard to, see where it's going to go and who's going to get the points. I'm going to keep an eye out for a Raheem Mostert rushing yards line, see what that says. You could go with Devon Achane or Devon Achane. There we go. 50.5 rushing yards, but he's not getting a crazy amount of touches. Maybe that'll change in this game. Maybe it won't. Who knows? It's just that's a little too. Again, I'll have a lot in battle royales, so it's just not really worth it for me to kind of force it in a pick 'em play. I do like though in this game, Jalen Waddle. He's back. He's back from a little bit of an injury. This isn't a crazy line. He beat this in weeks 1 and 2. Then a little bit of an injury. And then, back last week for the first time. It's a great matchup. It's at home. That's not a huge line. He can do that on, realistically, he can do that on one catch, but, 2, 3, 4, 5 catches was what he's averaging right now too. Give me that line. I'll take the over 62.5 receiving yards for Jalen Waddle. I'll hang my hat on that. I like that number. And, that's what I like realistically in this entire game as it sits right now, just because I'm not exactly sure, kind of how this game is going to go besides the fact that I know it'll be a beatdown, for the Miami Dolphins. And so with the difference between Tyreek Hill's receiving line and then Waddle's receiving line, realistically, I think they're, both likely to get over this number anyways. So give me Jalen Waddle, who has the lower line. You know what I mean? One of these receivers is going to do well, maybe both, but give me the lower line in a guy that plays just as many snaps and runs just as many routes, is just as fast, just as likely to smash, right? So give me Jalen Waddle 62.5 receiving yards. Don't mind this for Durham Smythe too. Again, if you think it's going to be a beatdown, one-sided through the air, you could certainly hit this number for Durham Smythe. I'm not going there, but I don't mind that. Even the extra points for Jason Sanders, I had that on my list a couple weeks ago and we hit it. But I'm not hitting that this week. We'll leave it there just because it's 3. If it was 2.5 and then you win, I could probably be talked into that, but as it sits straight 3, I don't love those whole numbers. This line for Ryan Tannehill went way up because I was thinking about betting this. I think it was 194 or 196 when it came out yesterday. So it's ballooned all the way up to 212.5. That's a huge increase. And there's a couple that have gone up, and we'll get there in a second, but that's a massive increase. And now it's off my radar. If it was under 200 still, yeah, give me that. I really don't love the Indianapolis Colts defense, but that's a little sketchy. And this is egregious. No one's going to bet this. This has got to be at least 1.5 times for his 2 passing touchdowns. So I'm not touching anything with Ryan Tannehill, but I was seriously looking at the passing yards line, but it moved way up, a little out of control. Derrick Henry, he could easily smash this number, but I'm a little skittish because it's really high. If it was, under 70, 69 and a half, I could maybe get on board with that. Last week we smashed it. He was one of my favorite plays last week against my own team. My Bengals, I just, I know how they are as a team. I know how Derrick Henry is as a player. Nicholas Petit-Frere is back for this offensive line, and that's pretty big deal for Derrick Henry. He should have a little better running lanes than he's had. I believe he's going to start at right tackle. That's kind of where he was penciled in to start the year before he got suspended for betting on sports. Obviously, same as Jameis Winston, Jameson Williams. I mean, they both got a couple games shaved off, and they're both back this week. So that could bump up Derrick Henry. Again, I'm going to have tons of exposure in Battle Royale, so I don't feel the need to hit this. I don't mind over, a half a rushing touchdown, but it's just a little volatile. So I think he certainly could. Again, I'm getting my exposure in Battle Royale, so I'm not gonna. I certainly couldn't blame you for betting on it. That's for sure. Same thing with Nick Folk. We hit that last week. Over 5.5 kicking points. He hit that. I don't mind the 2 field goals here. I don't have it written down because I think there's some other good kicker plays. And I love the kicker plays. I might make a whole kicker card actually, and maybe I will have Nick Folk, but keep an eye on Twitter. You'll see the slip. I've done pretty well with kicker bets, so keep an eye out for that. Maybe I'll make a four runner kicker play and see if we can get lucky. Anthony Richardson, one of my favorite plays in Battle Royale, so I'm going to have tons of exposure there. Passing yards is a little much. Rushing yards. This is a very, very good team against the run. So I'm just avoiding Anthony Richardson as far as pick and plays are concerned. And I got tons of exposure in Battle Royale, so I'm not worried about that. You could go Michael Pittman, but if I can't endorse anything there with Anthony Richardson, can't endorse his pass catchers. But one play that I like, this is a kicker play that I really like. Matt Gay, 1.5 field goals made. He had a 5 field goal week 2 weeks ago at home in a dome against a team that's going to give it up through the air. They might be a little bend, don't break. So give me 2 field goals for Matt Gay. This should be a relatively tight game. The over-under says so. The spread says so. So give me 2 field goals for Matt Gay. That would be a part of my my kicker ticket if I make one, which I think I will. I think I'll do that this week. There's some good plays. Moving on to Houston, Atlanta. I like CJ Stroud a ton. If you watch this channel building up to the draft, I thought he should have been the for sure first overall pick for the Carolina Panthers. They didn't. They went with Young, and now they're kind of paying for it. And Stroud is killing it. He's looking fantastic. I don't mind the passing yards number here, but I'm not gonna endorse it because I like this Atlanta defense, and it's on the road in Atlanta. So I'm not going to hit that. I'm not going to endorse it. Same thing with Dameon Pierce. That was a guy we hit last week. One of my favorite plays last week. Not going to endorse that against a good rushing defense. Grady Jarrett, Calais Campbell, even Caden Ellis in the back, in the linebacker. I just can't get behind any of this. It's a little volatile at the wide receiver position. It's Nico Collins. It's Tank Dell. Robert Woods is there. Dalton Schultz is getting pushed for playing time with other tight ends on the roster. Brevin Jordan, even Andrew Beck, the fullback, has gotten quite a bit of play. So I can't really endorse anything here. I'm just gonna avoid this. If this was 5.5 kicking points for Kaimi Fairbairn, however the hell you say his name, yeah, I would be on board if this was 5.5 kicking points. If it goes down to 5.5, I'll smash it. But sitting at 6.5, a little bit lofty. He could definitely do it, but I just think there's better spots, so I don't need to go there. This is a really enticing number. He's beaten this every game so far this year, except for week 1. So the past 3 weeks in a row, he's beaten this number. The reason I'm not going to, and I'm not going to endorse it, it's very enticing though. The reason I'm not going to is the run defense for Houston's been pretty lackluster, pretty Swiss cheese over the last few years, and it's no different right now. And with Bijan Robinson and Algier, I could see this game going very much like the week 1 game, where they, Ritter threw for, I think, 112 yards, 115 yards or something like that. Something like that. These two running backs just went ham. And I could see that happening again against Houston, again at home. This number is a little high. I'm going to be probably overexposed to Bijan Robinson in battle royales. He's going to be my, number 3, 4, 5, 6 overall pick in battle royales. And that's pretty much across the board. I'll get a little bit of exposure to Kelsey, but we'll get to battle royales in a second here. I'd like to see if, what Algier gets for a line. If he gets a line in the 20s for rushing yards, I'm going to probably be hitting that. Almost certainly I'll be hitting out that line. It's going to be kind of, I don't want to call it disrespectful because he hasn't really done it yet since week 1. And Bijan's just been taken over. But if they're really rolling in the running game, they could just hand this ball off 50 times, maybe not quite 50, 40 times for sure in this game. And Algier should get at least 10 carries, I think, if the game script goes the way that I think it will or should. So keep an eye out for the line on Tyler Algier. If you want to fire me a message on Twitter, sure. Or keep an eye out on Twitter. If I post a bet slip with Algier, we'll see what the line comes out as. This is a little aggressive for Bijan. Again, I got my exposure. I don't need it, so I'm going to avoid that. But I'll be looking at Tyler Algier once a line comes out. Can't go with the pass catchers. Can't go with Drake London, Kyle Pitts. Just can't do it. But another kicker play. I like Younghoe Koo at home in a dome. Again, against a defense that is very gettable. You can get after them in the passing game. You can get after them in the, on the ground in the running game. So they should be able to move the ball. It should be a tightish game. So give me Younghoe Koo 2 field goals. I'll take that. I'll probably put that together with Matt Gay and a couple other plays and make a kicker ticket this week. Bryce Young against Detroit, the Carolina Panthers against Detroit. I'm just avoiding Bryce Young. Never really liked him, honestly, as a player or prospect. He's just small. He's really small, and it is what it is. So not taking anything on the Carolina side. I just don't feel comfortable. If you want to go Adam Thielen, 50 receiving yards, he's beaten this every week, at least for the last 3 weeks. He's beaten this number. So I don't mind that, even with Bryce Young. I don't mind that with Adam Thielen because Detroit's going to get their points. They're going to score touchdowns. So I don't mind this number at all. I don't know why they have a rushing receiving. Sometimes they do that, and it never makes sense. But 50 receiving yards for Thielen, I could completely get on board with that. I don't have it written down. I'm not endorsing it just, myself, but I don't mind that number if you go with it. This is where it gets a little dicey. So I want to see what they give Jahmyr Gibbs for a line as well. Very similar to the Algier situation. The Carolina Panthers suck at stopping the run, and this game could get out of hand. So Jahmyr Gibbs could get some run here. I don't know. We'll see. It depends on what his line says, and then I'll address it. But where it's getting a little sketchy is David Montgomery. I think I still like this number because it's not too egregious quite yet. I want to endorse this, but it went up from yesterday. I had over 65.5 rushing yards for David Montgomery. It's now at 67.5. Yes, I think he can beat that for sure. It's just a little sketchy. I have enough plays. I think I'm going to take it off my board as far as me endorsing it. Will I? If it drops back down even to 66, I'll probably be enticed to take it. 65, I'll take it. But I have enough plays. I don't need to force it. And this game could go a lot of different ways. Jameson Williams is back. Maybe he catches a deep ball for a touchdown. Amon-Ra could have 2 touchdowns. Josh Reynolds, Laporta, right? Jahmyr Gibbs. And then they just don't need to run the ball 32 times with David Montgomery like they did against the Packers. Plus, He ran the ball 32 times against the Packers coming off of an injury. Do you really want to just hammer David Montgomery into the ground? I don't know. That's why I'm a little more enticed to see what they give Jahmyr Gibbs for a line. So we'll keep an eye on it. I'm going to pull the Dave Montgomery play off my card for right now. I don't like when it goes up a little too dramatically. That it just kind of bothers me. And I should have hit it realistically. I should have played it yesterday at 65.5. But either way, moving on to the Philly Rams. I'm going to be super exposed to this game in general on Battle Royales, but this is another one where things changed, and I should have bet it yesterday. Jalen Hurts, a rushing touchdown. Don't mind that. You could certainly go that way. I don't know why. I guess you could just get the receiving just in case. You never know. Derrick Henry threw one to, not a quarterback, but a tight end last week. But either way, you could touch that. I don't mind the passing yards. Past 2 weeks in a row, he's blown this out of the water, but I'm not gonna bet on that. I'll have enough of Jalen Hurts in battle royales. This is where, again, it went up on me, is DeAndre Swift. Yesterday, 64.5. Now it's at 67.5. And again, I'm interested in the backup or the second running back in this offense. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they give Kenny Gainwell for a line, because nothing yet. And if this game gets out of hand, which it absolutely could, yes, it's in LA, so it's an extreme east to extreme west kind of a game, time difference, whatever. But this game could still get super out of hand. I feel like it'll be competitive at least, because the Rams they haven't just been rolling over this year. They've been looking pretty reasonable. Matt Stafford's still a guy. If Cooper Kupp's back, great. If not, they still have a good, 1-2 punch with Tutu and Puka Nacua. And then Tyler Higbee's still there. So realistically, as much as I love this game, I'm kind of avoiding it right now. Mind you, the lines aren't really complete just yet on this game. So I might look at it a little closer to, Sunday, where there's more lines, there's more availability, and we'll see what happens to that rushing total for DeAndre Swift. If that goes back down, I'll probably smash it. But there's really nothing really to look at here. Devontae Smith doesn't even have a receiving line. So keep an eye on that. And if you like it, you like it. I was thinking about 2 field goals for Jake Elliott, but I'm gonna avoid that just because the game script could dictate that they're just beating the shit out of the Rams, and defensive touchdowns. I don't know if I can endorse the 2 field goals for Jake Elliott. Mind you, he's done it every week so far. That's just a close one. That's a close one for me. Nothing for, passing yards, touchdowns, nothing for Matt Stafford. Same with Kyron. There's not a lot here in this game. So clearly this is one that the odds makers are kind of making, taking their time on, because there's really nothing here. The one I do like on this is Brett Maher, 2 field goals. I think that they are going to be able to move the ball, at least the Rams, So if they can move the ball down the field enough to get into field goal range, Maher's got a big leg. He had 250, 50+ yard field goals last week. It's at home in a dome. He could hit 50-yarders. Give me the 2 field goals made. Hopefully that can keep him in the game long enough. If they can get 2 field goals early, maybe one at the end of half, something like that. But the Rams, this is a little sketchy because the Rams do like to gamble a little bit, but this Philly defense is really, really good. So if you're, 4th and 4 and it's a 49-yard field goal, I'm just taking my points personally. Hopefully Sean McVay will think the same way. And if those situations come up, hopefully Brett Maher hits it. So if I have a kicker ticket, I'll have Brett Maher on it. And, hope that it goes the way that I think it will and should. My Bengals, in an absolute must-win game. It would be a huge embarrassment if they lose to the Arizona Cardinals, even though it's in Arizona. The Cowboys lost to the Cardinals, so I guess it's not like it's, out of the question, that's for sure. But I would look at that as a huge disappointment, and the seasons would almost be pretty much over if that happened. So what do I think happens in this game? I kind of got kicked in the nuts by this one. This was a huge mover, and I still don't mind it, but I'm not going to take it right now. Joe Mixon's rushing total yesterday was 61.5. I really should have hit that number yesterday, 61.5, and now it's 68.5, and it'll probably go up. That's a little bit too big of a jump for me. I am taking this off my chart, my list, because that's way too much for me. That's a little frustrating. I should have bet it yesterday. A full 7 yards less. Joe Burrow just doesn't look healthy enough to me. I think he should have sat out the first couple games, 2 games, and just gotten healthy. But here we are. He's going to keep going out there, and we're going to see if we can make it work. This is just a little bit lofty. I'm just not going there on this side. We'll see what the receptions total is for Jamar Chase. If it's, we hit it last week at, I think it was 6.5, I believe. So if it's 6.5 this week, I'll take it. But we'll see when we get there. I don't mind this 2 field goals for Evan McPherson. They're going to run the ball. Let's take our points when we have the opportunity and put up as many points as we can. That's going to be my thought process while watching this game. So I don't mind this, but I'm not writing it down. If I put a kicker ticket together, I might have that on there. What I do like, not Josh Dobbs. This defense is interesting. Maybe you could look at the rushing yards. Let's see what Josh Dobbs has done rushing the ball. 48, 55, and 41. That's pretty juicy. 22 rushing yards. That's pretty juicy. I'm going to have to dig into that a little bit more. I don't know why I didn't really quite look at that. Maybe it wasn't there yesterday. That's an interesting number. Let's take a look into that. Let's take a look into that a little further. I'm not going to endorse it right here, right now, just on the fly, but that's an interesting number. 22 rushing yards for Josh Dobbs against the Bengals. I don't mind that number whatsoever. Reason being, I am endorsing this. James Conner over. Yesterday, it was 60.5. You're giving me a 2-yard cushion. I'll take it. So 58.5 rushing yards over for James Conner. Bengals give up some rushing yards. They do. They always have. They always will, unless we get, we change our roster, which, whatever. We'll deal with that later. Another story for another day. 58.5 rushing yards for James Conner. Give me that. They should be in this game. It's not like the Bengals are going to come in and blow out the Cardinals. They're not going to come in and blow them out. Maybe if everybody's healthy, yeah, I think that would happen. But Joe Burrow's just not healthy. The defense has taken a hit. So, in the offseason with players leaving and stuff. So give me that number. I like that for James Conner. He should get at least, 15 attempts, I think. And that should be enough to get over the 60 rush yard mark. So give me that number, 58.5. I'll take the over. That's all I got on this side. I don't mind this number for Michael Wilson, but again, just a little too volatile. But I'm seriously going to look at that rushing total for Josh Dobbs. I'll tell you that. If this was 5.5 kicking points for Matt Prater, I'd be all over that. Bengals are very much a bend don't break defense. So if you're getting 5.5 kicking points for a kicker against my Bengals, I'm probably taking that. So if this does drop to 5.5 kicking points, I'll be over that for Matt Prater. The game of the week, we got the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Minnesota Vikings. I'm not going here with Patrick Mahomes. I'm not taking that. That's a huge number in my opinion. One that might not be necessary at all to win this game. Where I will go absolutely, and I'm getting a huge cushion since yesterday. 57.5 rushing yards for Isaiah Pacheco. Yesterday it was 63.5 rushing yards. Now I'm getting a 6-yard cushion. You bet your ass I'm going to be taking that. Over 100 yards last week. That was a huge game against the Jets too. He's destroyed this every week. I don't know where this is kind of coming from. I really don't know where this is coming from. Maybe this is something I don't know that maybe I should. Maybe it's another one of those Roshan Johnson situations, but I don't think so. I'm smashing the 57.5 rushing yards. This defense is pretty garbage for the Minnesota Vikings. Yeah, that's gold. That's my smash of the week, I think, right now. And you're giving me a 6-yard cushion from yesterday. You better believe it. So there you go. I'm taking Isaiah Pacheco. Travis Kelce, that's a little lofty for me. If it was in the low 60s, I could look at it. That's pretty lofty. Won't be taking the under, but certainly not going over. Any of these guys could catch a touchdown. I'm not after that. Harrison Butker, you could certainly go 1.5 field goals. I don't mind that. If this was 2.5 extra points, I wouldn't mind that, but it's sitting at 3. I'm not clicking anything with Butker as it sits right now. Defense is defense. Kirk Cousins, sure, he could hit that, but that's a big number, and this defense is really good. So I'm avoiding that. We smashed Alexander Mattison last week, but this defense is very good, and they might have to throw the ball. And if they have to throw the ball, then Madison's not going to get there. I'm not going here with Justin Jefferson. I'm picking him every single time on first overall, maybe second overall if I get him. This is what pisses me off here. So was there something that we didn't know about Jordan Addison last week? Because his line was, I thought, an egregious number, 38.5 receiving yards last week for Jordan Addison in a very good matchup for him. He comes out and he gets targeted once. That doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. I don't know if there was something going on, maybe a little bit of an injury that, the odds makers knew about, that, the retail bettors didn't know about, because now his line's up to 46.5. I get that it's, a more pass heavy game. At least it should be against the Chiefs. But for him to have one target in what was a really, really close game against the Panthers last week, they were in it for the whole entire game. How do you not throw the ball to Jordan Addison? I really don't know. So I almost feel like I got played on that one, or there was something that we don't know, because it just doesn't make a lot of sense for his line to move up so dramatically. I get, again, that it's a better, on paper, a better matchup for a pass catcher, but that just seems odd to me, and I'm upset about it because it cost me, because that one bet there cost me a couple tickets because I really like the number. KJ Osborne, I'm not touching. I just can't trust. He literally cost me, what was it, $1,000? Either $1,000 or $500 on 1 yard. 1 yard, 36.5, and he gets me 36. That was a real massive kick in the nuts, and I just can't trust him now. That's kind of how she goes. Do I think he can hit this? Absolutely. I might even play him in a redraft, home league type of thing, but I can't get behind it. Where I am going to go, though, is TJ Hawkinson. Tyler Conklin beat this against this defense last week with Zach Wilson throwing the ball. So give me TJ Hawkinson over 53.5 receiving yards. I have that on a ticket already. I'll post it after the show's over. I really like that number against Kansas City in what should be a pretty high-scoring affair, pretty back and forth. There's going to at least be yards to get. And as far as tight ends are concerned, you can get after this Kansas City defense being a tight end without a guy like Juan Thornhill there anymore, or Honey Badger, right? So give me the over 53.5 for TJ Hawkinson. That's what I'm taking there as it sits right now. Moving on. Nothing on the defensive side. Such a juicy matchup for the Jets. I'm avoiding this. I have a ton of, right now I have too much exposure to Garrett Wilson in battle royales. So I'm going to be avoiding him as we go through some more drafts. But I do like that matchup for him. Although I'm not touching this receiving yards. I'll take the risk in battle royale, but I'm not going to take the risk in a pick'em setting, just because, he had right around, I think he had 60 yards last week on 9 catches. That's really sketchy. You got to be, if you're getting 9 catches and you're a player like Garrett Wilson, you got to get over 100 yards on that. You kind of have to. So I'm avoiding it here. And again, I'm overexposed as it sits right now in battle royales, but we'll see how that kind of shakes out and finishes out. Greg the Leg, in Denver, I don't mind this if it was 5.5. I hate these whole numbers and you don't win if it's a whole number unless you get 7. So if this is 5.5, I'll smash. If it's not, if it's 6 or 6.5, I'm off it. So I'm going to keep an eye on Greg the Leg on his kicking points line, because he can certainly hit 50-yarders in that thin air in Denver. Russell Wilson cost me money last week, 8 yards short of passing yards against a terrible defense. Can't trust Russ. Even though he did win, I think, a bet for me 2 weeks ago, but that's too far away for me to remember. Same thing I always say with these two wide receivers. I'm just avoiding it. Tough matchup too. Will Lutz could go with this number, but I'm avoiding it as it sits right now. Let's move on to the Sunday nighter. Dak, this is a tough game. This is a good game. This is actually a really, really good game. I wish Trevon Diggs was still healthy. And then we could really see where these two teams are at, but it should be a good game. They're two of the better teams in the NFC, so should be really interesting. What do I like in this game? This defense for the 49ers, you can get after them in the secondary. I've said it week in, week out on this show. And Dak has beaten this number, I believe, every week so far. At least the last 3 weeks, he's beaten that passing yard number. And realistically, that's the only way you're getting after this defense. They're one of the better run defenses in the NFL. So give me the over 241.5 passing yards for Dak Prescott. I like that number. I haven't bet it yet. We'll see if I do, but I do really like that number. It may or may not make it on a slip. Check my slips on Twitter, but I like that number. I like that bet. Not touching Tony Pollard this week against the 49ers. And if I like Dak Prescott at that number, I should like CD at his. But I'm just going to take the road less traveled on this one, and I'm going to go with Michael Gallup, believe it or not. Last 2 weeks, he's absolutely obliterated this number, right? 60 and 92. This should be a pass-heavy game. They're going to have to throw the ball. 31.5 receiving yards for Gallup. Like I said, I like to look at those secondary, wide receivers when it's just the road less travel. It's just an easier number to attain. So give me 32 yards for Michael Gallup. I'll take the over on that. Can't recommend Jake Ferguson just because tight ends haven't done exceptionally well against this team. So I'm going to avoid him as it sits right now. What do I got? That's it. No, one more bet. Last bet on the card that I have so far, the last play that I like is Brandon Ayuk. So there was a bet for season long for Brandon Ayuk. There was a bet over under 1.5 100-yard games for Brandon Ayuk. I was really thinking about betting the over on that. I really liked it. I really wanted it. I really should. Now I'm really kicking myself. He's already done it. 2 games right there in the last 3 weeks. He's already beaten that number. That's a real kick in the nuts because I really liked it. It was one of those things that you find and it's like, wait, that makes zero sense when you're looking through lines. I really like 17 games and he's arguably the best pure wide receiver on this team. I should have bet it. I'm really kicking myself. He already beat that number. It is what it is. But this game, he left early, obviously, with that AC joint, I believe it was, in his shoulder. So he left this game early, but he was on tap to still beat that number. And then he absolutely crushes it in the other 2 games that he plays in full. Catches every pass that he's thrown in those 2 games that he played in full. So give me Brandon Ayuk. Without Trevon Diggs, give me over 55.5. Has that gone up? I think it went up 1 yard. Yeah, it was 54.5. It's now 55. Still like it. I'll still hit it at 55.5 receiving yards. So there you go. That's it. There's not a lot. Oh, these are all new. A couple new ones out for the Monday nighter, but I'm not too interested in those as it sits right now. That's my betting line, my card, everything I've got so far. But follow on Twitter and check the bet slips. And hopefully we can get back on the winning track this week. I want to start a new winning streak, so let's go. But let's get into some Battle Royale stuff. So we went through some of the games. We went through some of the plays that I like, and I talked about some of the Let's look at my exposure. Let's just take a look at that. 22 battle royales so far that I've drafted. If we'll take a look at the exposure. Like I said, I'm a little too exposed to Garrett Wilson as it sits right now. And I'm going to stop drafting him. He falls to a spot in the draft where if you don't have two wide receivers, he's just kind of a really, really attractive click. If you're only sitting there with one wide receiver or no wide receivers, it's a really attractive click, but I have to start purposefully not drafting him or getting my wide receivers earlier, whatever. Justin Jefferson, I've had the first overall pick, 8 times, which is fantastic in 22 drafts. That's a pretty good advantage. I don't typically get the 1-1 that often, which is nice. But this week, it seems like I'm getting it every other draft. Pacheco, I love. Like I had on my bet card. I like it there, and I like him here because he goes so late. Mark Andrews, as far as the tight ends are concerned, it's basically the top 4. And you see that lonely little Kyle Pitts share. Yeah, we'll see. You never know. I just feel a game is coming on. And realistically, all he's got to do is fall into the end zone. If he has 50 yards and a touchdown, that's a really good tight end week. So I'll take a share or two, a couple shares of Kyle Pitts when I miss out on these top 3/4. So I'm really putting a big focus into getting one of these 3, Kelsey, Hawkinson, Andrews. Kelsey, I'm not getting as much of because I'm going Bijan Robinson over him. I'll pick him at 4 if Bijan's gone, but I'm pretty much going Bijan every time I can get him. And I'm a little underweight to where I want to be honest with you. Derrick Henry's moved up since last week, and I still love him. I'll still be picking him. Swift, Mixon, like all these guys. Talked about a bunch of these guys in Raheem Mostert. Sure. Talked about a bunch of these guys in the betting line pick'em plays. But if you're in the chat, hit that like button for me, number 1. Number 2, you want to jump in a draft? Let's do a quick battle royale. I'll do a couple of these, at least two. We got waiting on 2 people. So yeah, we'll do at least a couple of these drafts, see what we can get into. I'm probably going to, like I said, avoid Garrett Wilson as best I can in these because I got to, start spacing out my exposure. And my beer's almost empty, so it's almost time to call it a night. Fifth pick, so I'll be no questions asked. I'll be taking Bijan if he's there. Brown has been going at the 3rd overall, 4th overall, 5th, kind of all the way up and down, but we'll see what happens here. I don't recognize any, I don't think I recognize any of these usernames, so maybe it'll get interesting. I will take Kelsey because I'm a little underweight right now, but he'll probably be gone. Yeah. Realistically, I mean the what's it called? The goal line stand or whatever. The other tournament where it's 12 teams and the same amount of rounds. That's what brings up a lot of these ADPs. Realistically, in these battle royales, there's only 6 quarterbacks being drafted, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then one of these guys, likely Goff, Kirk Cousins, maybe some Burrow, but that's it. Realistically, none of these other guys are getting drafted in these battle royales. These are the only quarterbacks, in my opinion, that are going to be drafted. Maybe there'll be some oddball guys taking CJ Stroud or Matt Stafford, maybe, but I don't think that's advisable personally. Yeah, basically after Anthony Richardson, it's kind of over. So textbook, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek. I told you AJ Brown's been going a little bit higher. He goes 3rd overall. So that opens up either Kelsey or Bijan. I will happily take Bijan. Absolutely. That's an auto click 5th overall. No problem. No problem. Like I said, I'm a little underweight to where I want to be on Bijan this week. I think he absolutely smashes that Houston defense at home. So we'll see. I find this is getting a little aggressive for Devon Achane. Devon Achane. There we go. This is getting a little aggressive considering, 8 touches. Yeah, he had 100 yards, 2 touchdowns, 11 touches total, 22 in what was an extreme blowout. But it's hard to just trust that he's going to get those touches and just say, yep, that's what's going to happen. He's going to get those touches. It's a little hard to just say that and just say that that's what's going to happen, I'm going to go David Montgomery here. I don't have very much of him, and I want to kind of mix it up. Maybe I should have taken Hawkinson there just to mix it up a little bit with the ADPs and try to get some uniqueness, especially with the amount of Bijan shares that I expect to have and already kind of do. I don't think I have this start yet, though, so I'll go that route. I don't mind that. But now it's going to put me behind the 8 ball with wide receivers. So this is a tough wide receiver week. That's why I have so much Garrett Wilson, because he could absolutely just go off against that Denver secondary, that Denver defense that's just straight dog shit. But unfortunately, yeah, you open yourself up to having a weak wide receiver room this week. Wow, Nico goes before Devontae Smith, Waddle, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's this guy's getting unique. There, you could say that. There's probably not a lot of Jefferson Nico starts. One tight end. So I'll definitely be looking tight end here. I'm very pro going with, a stud tight end. And with the, Andrews, with what he's been doing the past couple of weeks. So I'm going to take Mark Andrews here for sure. Obviously, Kelsey's there already. So Derrick Henry, that's a smash pick. Maybe I should have waited. I should have went with Hawkinson maybe. That's all right. Let's take Mark Andrews here and move on. Maybe just go with Lamar right after. It's just an easy click. Yeah, honestly, it's too easy not to, especially with my running back room completely shored up, good to go. Might as well just get the Baltimore stack and then worry about wide receiver and not go with Garrett Wilson, because I just can't go with Garrett Wilson. Limited in practice for Cooper Kupp. Could go that route. You could go with the Pittman, Anthony Richardson stack late in games. Breece Hall, who's not going to have his workload limited allegedly from Bob Saleh this week against Denver. I'm going to have to get some exposure there. That's for sure. I'm going to have to get a little bit of exposure if they're going to just start feeding them the ball, because I don't have any Breece Hall. There's a lot of good running backs this week, but Breece Hall might be the week winner. So I'm going to have to get some exposure. So I got to go 2 wide receivers. There's no questions asked there. Have to do it. So who do I go with? Do I take a Pittsburgh bring back? No, I'm just not doing it. Do I take a Houston bring back? Tank Dell? Not the worst idea. Definitely not the worst idea, but I would need basically this Jacksonville game out of him in order to, realistically compete. Do I want to go Zay Flowers? No, I don't. Do I want to take? Oh man, I might just have to take Garrett Wilson here, and that's a little bit frustrating. If he's there at 29, I'll just roll my eyes and take him. It just makes too much sense if he's still there. If I'm getting him way past ADP. Not that ADP matters at all in Battle Royale, because it really does not, but it does matter a little bit for uniqueness. So Obviously, this guy can't take wide receivers, so he's not taking them. But this guy, just take Garrett Wilson and make it easy on me to not. Cooper Kupp. All right, I'll roll my eyes and take Garrett Wilson. Fine. Don't really love it. Don't really want to do it, but I'll do it. Force my hand. Chris Olave goes. I wouldn't have minded going that direction. But with what's left over, like I said, it's pretty thin. It's pretty thin this week at wide receiver, unless you get one or two of the top tier guys. But I'm going to go with Tutu. I like Tutu Atwell here. All I need is one big play from him. That's what I'm hoping for. 4 catches, 100 yards, and a touchdown. That's really all I'm hoping for out of Tutu Atwell here. Realistically, obviously, this team's going to live and die by Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews. If for some crazy reason Lamar throws 3 touchdown passes to Mark Andrews, which is not out of the question, then that's what you need. That's the stack that you have to have in order to win this. And then as long as everyone does what they're capable of doing, I got a capable roster here. CJ Stroud goes. There's one where it's not Kirk Cousins or Goff, so it's pretty rare. No Houston or Atlanta player. That's interesting, but let's jump into one more. We'll do one more, and then we're going to call it a night. Jump in if you're in the chat. Hit that like button if you don't mind. Check the bet slips on Twitter. If you need any advice or if you have any questions on Twitter, hit the DMs. Just give me a shout. Let me know. 1-1. I told you almost every other draft, I get the 1-1. It's weird this week. This is a good week for it. I got the same. Keefe is in this one. He was in this first one as well. So I'll be taking Justin Jefferson. I've kind of decided and I've kind of backed myself into taking Justin Jefferson no matter what, unless I'm 2. If I'm 2nd overall and Justin Jefferson goes 1st overall, then I'll take Tyreek. I'm not going to force Tyreek exposure this week. I'm just not. It's a more competitive matchup, Minnesota versus Kansas City, and realistically, Tyreek's done it one time so far in the last 3 weeks, 26.2. Could he do that? Absolutely, no questions asked. But look what Justin Jefferson's been doing. He's done it. They don't have points up here, but he's done it every single week so far. So yeah, it's easy. It's an easy click to go Justin Jefferson. So I'm not going to force Tyreek exposure with 1st overall if I keep getting it, which this is my 9th time, I think, in 23 or 4 drafts. That's ridiculous that I keep getting the 1-1, but it gives me a lot of different builds with Justin Jefferson. So should get interesting, especially if he's, kind of the must own. He's another guy that could have 3 touchdown passes. Literally. He's done it before. He can do it again. 150 yards, 3 touchdown passes. You tell me you'd be surprised if that happened this week for Justin Jefferson? I'm not. So, and it's more likely that he does it than Tyreek Hill does, in my opinion. Jamar Chase, 4th overall. That's interesting. Bijan, I've seen Bijan go 6. That's a nice gift if you get him at 6 overall. One more sip. All right. So I like to try to get unique now with the players moving around, ADPs moving around since the drafting opened a few days ago. So I like to scroll down a little bit. I don't love to go with TJ Hawkinson with Justin Jefferson, just because then you're saying the ball gets spread around. I'd rather take the chance that, Jefferson scores 2 to 3 touchdowns and has 150 yards than say he has that 2 touchdowns, 150 yards, and TJ Hawkinson has, 80 yards and 2 touchdowns. Pretty unlikely both of those things happen. So I'm not really going that route. We'll see if I go tight end here. Might go Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts. I don't mind that. I think it's about time Devontae broke out again and had a big game. So if that's available, I might go that route. Might even go Puka and Devontae Smith. Derrick Henry's pretty attractive right here. DeAndre Swift is pretty attractive right here. So we'll see. We will see. Patrick Mahomes got sniped by the A.J. Brown team. Garrett Wilson, what are you doing at 11 overall? Now you're just confusing me, mate. I'm going to go Jalen Hurts and Derrick Henry. Is what I'm going to do. I don't think I have that. So that means I'm not really going to have a game stack here unless I get Tyler Higbee or Goddard, but I don't like Goddard at all. I'd rather go Higbee than Goddard, if I'm being honest. And I'm not taking, I would bring this back with Anthony Richardson with Derrick Henry, but obviously I can't with Jalen Hurts. So I'm not picking Pittman. So I probably won't have a game stack at all, but we'll see. Unless someone falls in my lap, which could happen. I might go Devontae Smith if he's there, that's for sure. Puka if he's there, that's for sure. Never know. Maybe Cooper Kupp, but doubtful. I do have a couple Cooper Kupp shares that you'll probably have to swap out, depending on if he plays or not. My concern is that he plays and he only plays like a handful of snaps or, half the snaps, something like that. That's my big concern with the Cooper Kupp. Tight ends go off the board, so I'm going to have to push it. It's basically now the way I'm looking at this, for me, realistically, it's Tyler Higbee or Kyle Pitts. I'm just going to take the risk on a last pick, Kyle Pitts, and hope that he gets 50 yards and falls in the end zone, gets me 15 points. And, that's good enough this week. Or he just goes ham and has a big game that's unexpected, kind of out of nowhere, and there you go. So we'll see. I'd really love either Devontae or Jalen Waddle. Either one of those two wide receivers is more than fine for me. And then probably, if I can get one of these two wide receivers and Swift, even with Jalen Hurts, I really don't mind that. I don't mind that at all. So I'll get one of these wide receivers. That's good news. I'd love to get Devontae Smith. Yeah, that's not surprising. So let's go Jalen Waddle for sure. That's not even a question. And I'm really wanting to get a little more exposure to Joe Mixon. Even though I hate Joe Mixon as a player, really don't love Joe Mixon as a player, never have, never will. If you watch his channel a lot, it is what it is. Jonathan Taylor practices fully Wednesday. So he's playing. Tough matchup. So definitely don't feel like I have to pick Jonathan Taylor this week. Let's go team drills. Yeah, let's go DeAndre Swift. Let's just do what I originally wanted to do. And then I'm going to go Higbee to bring it back. Yeah, let's make that happen. Sidesteps injury report. Like to hear that. So I got the game stack. I ended up having a game stack. Philly with the Rams. Yeah, if Jalen Hurts runs in one touchdown and throws two, and then DeAndre Swift has one touchdown and a lot of yards because he could get a lot of run, this could work. If he passes a touchdown, if he has a touchdown pass to DeAndre Swift, that's obviously the nuts for me. We'll see. I obviously don't have a lot of I don't have any of this. I think this is my first time having, running back and quarterback here with a running quarterback, but you got to do some different things if you want to win, 30 grand. If you want to win the entire shebang, you got to do some different things. Can't just do everything that everyone else is doing. You got to shake it up a little bit. So Tyler Higbee will complete the stack, my last pick, and we'll end the night. We'll end the night there. Everyone's taking their time on their last pick here. Yeah, we just need Higbee's just got to get in the end zone. He's getting targeted. He's getting, he's getting catches. He's getting yards. He's just got to fall into the end zone, and then that completes what you need out of Tyler Higbee. So if he does exactly like either of these 2 past weeks, but he falls into the end zone, gets a touchdown, that's all you need out of this position. So fingers crossed he does that. Philly is really terrible against tight ends too. They're not a good team against tight ends. So I'll take a shot. Drafted, completed. There we go. That's it. That's the show. Hope you liked it. Follow along on Twitter if you want to see some of my bet slips. And then if you want to tail or take some of the pieces out of it and make your own, be my guest. Watch the episode, take pieces out of the entire episode that I laid out there. We'll be back next week, next Wednesday, talking about the same stuff. I'm going to take DraftKings off the thumbnail and stop talking about, doing DraftKings stuff because I just don't do it enough and it takes too much time. We're already almost an hour and a half in. And, just talking about pick'ems and battle royale stuff. So, leave comments if you like, or send me a message on Twitter or something if you really want some DraftKings content. But I'm probably going to take it off. This just takes too much time on this underdog stuff. Not everyone wants to watch a 2-hour episode, that's for sure. So we'll see you next week. We'll hopefully get back on the winning track. We got to start another win streak. We were, mere yards away from having another large week. It is what it is. You're only as good as your last week in the NFL and with fantasy football. Like I always say, if you're afraid to be wrong, you'll never be right. Hopefully we were right tonight. Like I said, hit that like button on your way out, and we'll see you guys next week.